opening weekend for Oregon State, and Coach Anderson was not happy. The Beavers suffering what he called an embarrassing loss in Fort Collins. What went wrong, and how will they respond this week against Portland State? Talkin Beavers starts now. Back to Corvallis this weekend for the Beavers as Oregon State is trying to bounce back from a brutal loss at Colorado State. Coach A says that one was uncharted waters for him. Welcome in to another edition of Talkin Beavers. Amanda Maynard, Lindsay Schnell, Evanston Bernard. So I don't know how many people anticipated the blowout proportions that we saw. Most turnovers since 2013, most points given up in the Gary Anderson era. How would you describe what went wrong on Saturday?
Well, yikes, first of all. Second of all, Gary Anderson said this on Monday, that he was going to stop talking about it before he started cursing incessantly. And I think that was the reaction of a lot of Beaver fans.
Yeah, that one hurt. You know, going off of last season with the, win the Civil War victory, right? You're going into the offseason, you're feeling good. You're going into, game one, really feeling really good. And then that kind of happens. That one hurt for me, just watching it. That was tough. But, they're going to bounce back. They're going to bounce back.
I was just alarmed at how quickly it went from a manageable deficit to a complete blowout. And you can make an argument that if they had given them that touchdown at the end of the first half, which absolutely was a touchdown, maybe they go into the locker room different, they come out with different energy. Players have said that they weren't ready coming out in the second half, which didn't go over well with the coaching staff. We're going to talk about that later. But I just thought it just imploded.
Yeah, and they were hanging in there for most of the game until I think the middle of the third quarter is when they lost control.
Well, and again, like you said, two very different halves. They trailed by 4 before Colorado State rattled off 13 straight points. Xavier Crawford, the one saying post-game that he didn't feel like the team was ready to handle just how hot Colorado State came out. Here is what Gary Anderson had to say responding to that this week.
First I've ever heard of that, so if that's the way he feels, then he needs to look in the mirror and get his own ass ready to play. So the football team was ready when they walked out of the locker room. It sounds like an excuse again to me, and I'm tired of that. I'm going to shut my mouth before I start really swearing. So it's a cop-out. The team was ready to play. They came out. They're excited to play. Bottom line, we gave up a kickoff at the first play of the second half. They returned to the middle of the field. Defense has their opportunities to get out of it. They end up kicking a field goal, I believe, on that drive, if I remember right. And we have a chance to go back and forth. So does that mean you're not ready because you give up a 50-yard kickoff return and then you force them to kick a field goal? I don't know. Maybe in his mind, but we don't see it the same way if that's the case.
Gary Anderson fired up, and his entire press conference was pretty like that the entire time. Here's a look at the first and second half by the numbers. You can see, 20 points for 7 points, rushing yards, 125 in the first half, just 27 in the second half, pass yards cut in half. What to you was the difference between the two halves? Were they ready?
Okay, first of all, I want to say something else about Gary Anderson. This was my question after watching that press conference. Are the players as angry as he is? Because I'm not sure that they are. And I asked Ryan Nall about that this week at practice, and he said that he thought people were both angry and shocked in the locker room. But it's a problem if the coach is the angriest person on the team. And you know who we see this with all the time, you guys? Baseball and Pat Casey.
He's frustrated. He's tired of it. It's his third season, and he knows, Beaver Nation has a lot of weight on him, and he wants to prove everybody wrong. We got him from Wisconsin, top 10 school every year. So he's used to winning, right? So it's been a tough journey for him, but hopefully things turn around.
And I feel like coaches always, afterwards, whether or not it's right or wrong, he shouldered the blame afterwards.
Yeah, credit to him.
His different position coaches as well as himself. How much do you think coaching is to blame for this one?
That's a really good question. And I'm not sure that people really want to go down that path, to be honest, because this shouldn't happen in year 3. In year 1, you're setting your culture, you're not working with your kids. Year 2, still kind of getting used to it. Year 3, these are your guys, this is your program, and that loss hangs around your neck. Right. So
the players are accountable as well. Got to be.
Players make plays. Yeah. That's what he likes to say,
right? Well, zeroing in on the offense, they really went away from everything that made them successful last year. Again, you saw even in the first half, they were throwing quite a bit. Again, 47 pass attempts just on Saturday versus what they were averaging in 2016. I can imagine, as Gary Anderson said, They were loading the box. They're always going to load the box. What did you see? How can they be more proactive in the run game to get these guys going?
Ev, you're the running back.
I mean,
break it down for us.
Gosh, well, number one, the reason why they probably throwing the ball a little more, they have a new toy in Luton, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And you want to show him off, right? And I think he is a. It's been a long time since we have a quarterback of his abilities, and I think he's a great player. He just made some, mistakes that cost him some big drives. It hurt him big time. But I think we ran the ball well. We executed plays well. I think when we got into the middle of the third quarter, that's when we started losing things.
Where did you think that they lost? Like, when you say losing things, where did you see things go wrong? Carelessness?
No. Well, Luton wasn't that smart with the ball during that time. He was making some rookie mistakes. He was trying to go for the home run. I think our running backs were trying to force things as well, not seeing the right reads. Offensive line did a decent job, not a great job. And we knew that going in there. Our offensive line wasn't the greatest, but they're gonna work and get better.
Do you see them or hope to see them maybe being a little bit more creative in the play call? Do they need to be?
Well, look,
creative?
they're going to have to be if people stack the box constantly. But I agree with Ev. I think that part of it was just, and Luton said this week at practice, he didn't necessarily think he was too many nerves, but I think the heat played a role in it,
Sure.
especially in the second half. I mean, it was 117 degrees on the field.
I don't know about that one because Colorado State was on the same field.
At like 80 degrees, I'm whining. Okay, yeah, but when things are going bad and you already your momentum is flipped and things just kind of snowball and then it's really hot, everything goes opposite way. Whereas when you're playing well, you're like, it's hot, but whatever.
Right.
We're turning them over.
Yeah, I just hate to have excuses about weather. I've always been a guy that the other team is going through the same situation. And I just think, they were the better football team, period. I
do think they're pretty good.
Yeah,
if Colorado State wins 10 games, this might not look so bad.
That is true.
All perspective.
That is true, because I remember when we played Boise State, it was like game 3 of the season. We were 2-0, and then we played Boise, and we thought Boise was going to be a walkover, and we jumped down 17-zip, and they came back and beat us. But that's the year they went to the Fiesta Bowl and beat Oklahoma, so.
Made you feel a little bit better.
Let's discuss our impressions of Jake Luton. First time seeing him in game action. 27 of 47, 304 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Biggest upside, biggest room for improvement with him.
Okay, so it's not bad. His stats aren't bad. Of his 3 picks, the first one, he threw it so far behind Isaiah Hodgins, who they targeted a lot, and he threw it off his back foot. It was bad right from when it went out of his hand. Another one got tipped. Right? That's hard. As a quarterback, that's not necessarily your fault. I think that, like Ev said, there are things to be really excited about with him once he gets that chemistry. Threw to 9 receivers. That's huge. To me, the biggest improvement will just be more playing time. And he said that what he realized this week at practice, he said, at this level, you can't make those mistakes. They catch up with you immediately.
Right. Yep. Yeah. And, and it was an away game too, right? The pressure of being away and not your own stadium and stuff like that. It plays a part. So,
I thought actually the O-line gave him quite a bit of time.
He only got sacked once.
Yep. So that's certainly something to be positive about. Still much more ahead. Evanston has plenty more praise for Ryan Nall this week. What he thinks of Thomas Tyner's debut as well a little later in the show. And we sit down with Isaiah Hodgins.
Watching the Civil War in the last 2 games versus Arizona, definitely knowing that they're on the come up and they're starting to get more serious, and I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of rebuilding and helping start a new era at a college and kind of help them with that.
Time now to hand out our Wilson Motor game balls. Evanston, we'll start with you.
Noah looked good, blocked well, caught the ball well. Was definitely an X factor that we've been waiting to see.
Okay, Lindsay, you're sticking with offense too, right?
I am. Hey, Jordan Villeman, he showed up. It wasn't perfect, but as someone who's been as critical of him as anyone, I was impressed. 7 catches for 77 yards, but most importantly, I thought that his 3rd down catch, their 2nd drive, which set up their first score, was huge. That's a veteran making a move. It was a check down, but still, he got yards for him. That was big. I think that even though they got smoked, this game could be big for his confidence going forward, and they are going to need him if they're going to get bowl eligible.
And how important is confidence, you think, to Jordan Villeman? When you talk to him, you get a feel for kind of where he's at, having struggled last season and knowing the season's important. How much do you think that goes?
Well, one thing about Villeman, is that he's so outgoing and energetic. I think it would be hard to know, sometimes get a read on maybe how angry he is, if he's doubting himself. To me, when I talk about confidence, it's more like he has been open about, okay, I'm going to work harder in practice, try to be crisper, get my routes down, catch the ball. And then when you have success, you see like, oh, this is worth it. The work I am putting in is paying off. So to me, that's what's going to be big going forward.
Evanson, how did you feel like he played in this one?
I loved it. I think he did a great job. I think the coaches feel like they can rely on him a little bit more now.
We saw a graphic just a second ago about 9 different receivers, 9 different people. You know, they spread the ball around to 9 different people. Is that maybe a comfort thing for Jake Luton to kind of, or really they're really feeling out this group and they don't know who's going to step up?
Yeah, I don't really think Jake has chemistry with anyone yet, which isn't a bad thing. I thought it was big when, I mean, who would have guessed that Timmy Hernandez would catch the first score of the college football season? I don't think anyone saw that coming.
Yeah,
he's definitely spreading the love. I like that. You know, he's getting the ball around and he's not just focusing on one guy, so it's good to see that.
And if they can, you know, get crisper, get that down going forward, you got 9 guys who can make plays.
Absolutely.
That's a nightmare defensively.
Yep. Well, we got a sneak peek at the future of the Oregon State receiving corps on Saturday. True freshman Isaiah Hodgins making his Beaver debut. And he certainly has the NFL pedigree to be good. His dad played 8 seasons in the NFL. Lindsay sat down with him to talk about his journey to Oregon State and a close coaching connection there.
Okay, Isaiah, lots of people are expecting a lot from you. Why don't you share your own expectations and goals with me?
You know, I just hold myself to high standards all the time. I want to go out there and be the best player I could be at all times and give 100% effort on every play and make sure that I do my job as a wide receiver, which is to catch balls and catch touchdowns.
What made you think this is where I want to be in Corvallis?
Definitely just the atmosphere on my official visit when I came during the Cal game and that overtime win. It was just great. And then watching the Civil War in the last 2 games versus Arizona, definitely knowing that, you know, they're on the come up and they're starting to get more serious, and I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of rebuilding and helping start a new era at a college and, you know, kind of help them with that.
So did Coach Brennan recruit you?
Yeah.
So when the coach that recruited you takes another job, was there a part of you that wondered if this was still the right place?
I still knew other coaches, like Coach Baldwin. He coached my dad in college too, so I had a really good connection with him.
Your dad was coached by Coach Baldwin?
Yeah.
What are some of the stories he's told you?
You know, my dad used to play running back in college, and Coach Baldwin was the one who moved him to DN his senior season, so he always makes that the funny story. I'm the one who moved your dad from position to position and all that, so that's pretty funny.
Who have you tried to model your game after? Is there any particular receiver in college or the pros?
In the pros, I would say more of like a Larry Fitzgerald type, you know, especially because I knew him as a kid and my dad played with him in the NFL. So just watching him at certain things like practice and his work ethic and how he was always there after, and he's kind of a bigger receiver like me, but not the fastest, but has great hands, great routes, and he's just an overall great wide receiver.
Okay, so when you come from a family like yours with a dad that has a history like he does, is that an advantage?
Yeah, in many ways I would say yes. You know, there's always the part where everyone's like, oh, your dad played in the NFL, like you should be this good or whatever and all that, but you know, I'm a totally different person, and obviously he played a totally different position than me, but I had advantages of, you know, talking to certain Hall of Famers, you know, whenever I want to, you know, get tips and stuff, and I have like great receivers like Torrey Holt that I can call up and ask for advice, and so, you know, that definitely plays advantage on my part.
When you got serious about football, what was the best piece of advice that your dad gave you?
Just to always stay humble and keep God first, and just keep your head down and keep working, because no matter what you say, no matter what you do, even on the field, there's always going to be people who are talking negative or doing bad on you or wishing bad on you, and just keep your eyes on the prize and keep going.
So this kid was a big prize. Again, Michigan, Wisconsin, Washington State. I mean, they were all in the mix for him. How big of a...
big that he stayed, like I said,
Absolutely.
even after Brennan left for San Jose State.
What, I mean, it seemed like they targeted him quite...
They did.
I mean,
and like early.
But yeah, they were going after it.
New quarterback, new receiver. Here we go.
Yeah. I mean, what did you see out of him?
Well, it wasn't great. It wasn't bad, but I think it was more on Luton than it was on Hodgins. But I think they were sending a message to everyone. This is a kid that we believe can be a player for us, and as much to him as anyone else.
Yeah, I like what I saw. That's a freshman. Remember that. It's a freshman.
A true freshman.
Yeah.
Well, and I liked, again, the discussion about his dad playing in the NFL, somebody with family ties in the NFL. Do you think that learning from, again, pros and growing up around that, does that change things for you?
It's a great tool to have. You just kind of learn a little bit more about the game, not just, running hard out there, but more the mental side of the game. And I think you see that from players like Larry Fitzgerald grew up around around football. I mean, he was at practice with his dad, and when his dad was at the Minnesota Vikings and stuff like that, and kind of was always around it. So you can kind of tell in his game, he's a student of the game, and it looks like he's another coach, but he's on the field.
I think it's similar to when you have like a player who had an older brother that played college football.
Right.
Sort of like this guy sitting over here. Taught Gio everything he knows. I think that that's huge. Just someone to explain to you, these are going to be the expectations. This is what you need to be able to do as a freshman. A huge part of Quiz's success when he was a true freshman at Oregon State was that James told him, this is what you need to do. James was the one that said, you need to learn the playbook. And Quiz played a lot because he understood all the plays. And Mike Riley had a huge playbook.
And siblings always want to compete.
Yes, it's true.
I was a really good long snapper because my brother was a center growing up. So
that's amazing. We will definitely be working that into a segment.
Going back to your game ball, Noah Togiai, a piece that I know you guys are really excited about. He had 7 catches for 67 yards, 1 touchdown. What did you see out of him that you liked? And what are your expectations for him this season?
It's great to see a tight end at Oregon State. It's been a long time, right?
Since Joe the Tank, right?
Yeah,
that's what we were talking about, since Joe Halahuni.
It was very nice to have him, and you can see it's an X factor when you can have a tight end that's dynamic, that can block, that can catch the ball. It creates mismatches,
To me, a big thing was, and Luton talked about this week at practice, he's a safety valve over the middle. He kind of knows, like, Noah's going to be there. He's going to be open. He's that big body. You can get the ball to him. They trust him. That's huge, especially as we talk about breaking in all these other receivers. And, Ev brought up a point when we were off camera. They're missing Seth Collins a lot right now.
Yeah.
That'll be huge when he comes back.
All right, well, the offense could certainly use a little help from the defense in the coming weeks, which the Rams tore through on Saturday. How they shore that up, and how do they get to their goal of 60 takeaways this season? And after the break, a closer look at the run game. What elements of Ryan Nall's games have everybody talking?
Felt like one of those things is where something could go wrong, it did go wrong. So we're all just kind of shocked at the moment, but we couldn't let ourselves get down like that. Whatever the score may be, it's my job, and as well as other guys on the team, to make sure that we're staying up and staying positive, no matter what the outcome is.
Well, many miscues for the Beavers on Saturday. To break down the game, we're bringing in Mike Parker from Corvallis. Mike, obviously a tale of 2 very different halves on Saturday against Colorado State. What was the difference for you?
Well, I think it's fairly clear on one certain obvious level that when you turn the football over, as the Beavers did 4 times in the second half, that doesn't give you much of a chance to win anywhere, let alone on the road with the temperature on the field at 117 degrees and a hostile crowd. There were so many things that just began to pile upon one another that I think it's important to remember that what Gary Anderson said, that in the 4th quarter it was a 10-point game still. The final score it was bad. Don't get me wrong, and he knows it was bad. It felt bad. But when they've gone back and looked at the tape, certainly the turnovers and some other things in execution and communication they clean up, they'll feel better, I think, at the end of Saturday's hot day in Corvallis.
I know that Coach Anderson has said on offense the ideal ratio would be more like 60-40 run to pass. Not quite the case against Colorado State. What was the biggest challenge you saw in the Beavers' run game?
Well, Gary himself looked at what Colorado State offered, what Colorado State did. He gives the Rams credit for stacking the box in a way that made it difficult for the Beavers to do what they wanted to do in the run game. And I thought Jake Luton took advantage of that approach with a lot of good throws and a lot of completions and big yards in the first half. But Gary essentially gave credit to the opponent for what happened in the Beavers' run game.
The run game, to me, Colorado State did a fantastic job of taking away what we do in our core. And when I say that, they build a 7-man box consistently. They were bringing a safety down in the box and did a very good job with it. And not to get too technical, they were +1 or +2 in the box in the run game. And when you do that, I don't care where you're at or what the situation is, it's going to be tough sledding. It's going to be tough sledding running the football, which it was in that setting. We were able to break some big ones. Is there some things we can do from a coaching standpoint to help us in that setting? Absolutely yes. And do we want to be able to run the ball more effectively? Absolutely yes. And you take away the 75-yarder and it's, what, 2-point-something a carry? With the 75-yarder, it's whatever it was, 4-something or what have you. So the run game was not good enough by our standards, period.
Well, the thing is, you know, we all keep saying, and rightly so, you take away the 75-yarder and ... The beautiful thing is you don't have to take away the 75-yarder. That's part of the statistical body of work, and it was a beautiful run by Ryan Nall. I thought Artavis Pierce had some nice runs between the tackles and one outside. Thomas Tyner, bad first carry, better second carry, and a lot more carries ahead. Calvin Tyler got a couple of touches. Trevoris Johnson in the pass game. So there's still 5 good running backs. There's still a quality offensive line. Other opponents may not handle the run game that the Beavers threw at Colorado State as well, and I think we're going to see great progress in the run game beginning this weekend.
All right, thanks so much, Mike. In our Comcast business class, Built for Speed, we're checking out the speed and the strength of this Beavers backfield with someone who knows a little bit about that, Evanson. When you look at Ryan Nall's performance, you really felt like he did a good job, was the MVP of this one.
Yeah, I thought he looked good. You know, we ran the ball hard. He ran the ball hard, caught the ball well. Blocked well, so I thought he did a great job.
When we heard from Gary Anderson about the run game, obviously they're just kind of like stacking the box. I imagine that's something that teams are going to do this season. They know that this is a loaded backfield. How do they get creative with him? How do they kind of deal with that throughout the rest of the season?
You just got to keep the defense on their heels. You got to keep them guessing a little bit. You know, some misdirection plays, throwing the ball downfield, using Noah on some, cross patterns and stuff like that. I mean, it's happened before, right? There's been great running backs with not a great throwing team or pass catching team. So you got to be able to be useful and be creative in that way.
What did you like that you saw from Ryan Nall come Saturday?
I appreciate how hard he ran the ball. As a 6'2", 6'3", 230 back, it's nice to see a bruiser once in a while bringing that to his game because he's elusive enough to also be elusive and be bruising at the same time.
So when it comes to Thomas Tyner, obviously a lot of people excited to see what he can do, but he has taken a 2-year break. What did you see from him? Because I think he had 4 carries. He didn't, he wasn't out there a lot, but he was out there getting working.
You can't get in your groove with 4 carries. I'm sorry to say, as a running back, you need more carries than 4. 4 carries to get in your groove. Obviously, Nall's he's a starting running back, so you got to feed the horse.
How do you think that he will work into this system?
We'll see in time. It's going to be one of those things where we're comfortable, and obviously in that game, we're kind of in the third quarter we start falling back, and then we start falling back on Nall. We're like, we need you. You can't just throw Tyner in there. Hey, Tyner, go in there. So his time will come. We'll see when that time is, but right now, Nall's the guy.
I want to know, what's the longest break that you took from football? Because 2 years is a long time, I imagine, to not be in college football conditioning shape.
Yeah, that is a long, long time. But, he's a 5-star rated guy that came out of high school, right? So it should be a little bit easier for him than other guys.
All right, much more with Evanson to come. Still ahead, we're talking a little bit more about Portland State, what to expect from this year's Barney Ball team, and where do the Beavers' defense look to for improvement? That is right after the break.
I just try to be the motor, the engine. I just want to be the leader on the defense. The guy to look to when you need help, or when you need to ask a question. I just want to be that kind of guy. But on the football field, I just want to be the motor of not only the defense but the team. Just being out there and showing them by example of just playing, and hopefully I can feed that off to them.
They certainly need him to have a great season in our Les Schwab Quick Fix. We were taking a look at some of the top tacklers over the years for Oregon State. Now, I know that they have challenged Manasseh Hungaloo to get to 100 tackles this season. He had 83 last year. Obviously, one of the leaders of the defense. Lindsay, you think that is just an insane goal, don't you?
Well, I think that it's important to remember, number one, only 2 guys in the Pac-12 last year, a kid from UCLA and a kid from Colorado, both of whose names I'm blanking on, got 100 tackles. And just so we're clear, that's 100 total tackles. That's not 100 solo. That would be super insane. But to me, like, your defense has to be better. Those defenses, like Colorado in particular, was so good. They got so many stops. Of course he tackled that many people. So that's great, but, you know, only 5 was, I was just underwhelmed by them.
Yeah, I think 5's not enough if you're trying to get to 100. And you know,
the math is not gonna work.
You got to be. Yeah, he's a defensive captain, so he needs to definitely play like a captain.
When you look at again, Lindsay, you brought it up. The group gave up 50 points, 525 total yards. They were 8 of 8 in the red zone. Colorado State was, not them stopping them. Some of the guys said the issue was communication after the game. Where did you think the issues were?
Oh, those 2.
People were just running free.
Yeah, I don't know, the 2 swing passes to the running backs for a touchdown. I mean, after the first one, you think you kind of learned your lesson. It happened again. There's just some of the deep balls that guys were wide open. I don't know, but it really fell apart. I felt like, I keep saying it, in the middle of the 3rd quarter.
So what I'm curious about is, you know, Xavier Crawford said that thing about they weren't ready the second half. I wonder, so in the first half, did they talk about, hey guys, we're not on the same page, we're not communicating, and then they didn't fix that at halftime? Like that doesn't make any sense to me. I appreciated that Gary Anderson put it on him. He said that's bad coaching if we're not ready to communicate. But also important to remember, and Ev, correct me if I'm wrong, because you certainly know a lot more X's and O's than I do. Colorado State didn't run anything crazy.
No.
It was pretty basic.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Yeah, they came right at us.
That goal of 60 takeaways, 30 sacks, 30 turnovers. I mean, 1, is there any way they can do that? 2, what will it take from this group? I mean, what do they need to be doing to change this?
Okay, so everything's going to help if you get a pass rush, if you get a real pass rush. And Gary Anderson said he was pretty happy with the defensive line. You know, they were playing as a very experienced quarterback I'm blanking on that
Nick
kid's
Stevens.
name. Thank you, Nick Stevens, who is pretty good, probably an NFL pick. But I think here's what's tough, okay? To the team's credit and the program's credit, they set all these goals. They said stuff out loud. Players said, bowl game or bust. The defense is saying 60 takeaways. So now they've set that goal for themselves, so everyone else is going to hold them to that standard. That's what's tough.
Yeah, and also going back a little bit, I think that Colorado State sustained real long drives too.
Yep.
I mean, I would love to see the possession time for Colorado. I mean,
that third quarter, it was major difference.
Absolutely, especially Colorado State won the time of possession by almost 10 minutes at the end of the game.
And you factor that heat in too, right? I know I hate to talk about it, but you factor that into long drives. It'll take a beating on you.
Absolutely.
What do you feel like is going to be this defense's identity? Did you see anything that jumps out to you?
Well, I think it needs to be Manasseh. I think he's the leader. I think, you know, when you think about so when I think about defense in the Pac-12, I think about Stanford, and I think about their linebacking core.
Sure.
And I think about guys like Shane Scove, like, you know, keeping his mouth shut during the week and then shutting guys down and then saying afterward, oh, did you think you were going to score on us? That's the type of defense you want to have.
Yeah, I think more our D-line, getting a little more pressure, getting in the backfield a little bit earlier.
It would help if this Michigan State transfer, Craig Evans, was...
Right, you were still waiting on him.
Let's not forget
right, what's going to happen? I've heard that maybe going to be eligible by the end of September when fall term starts for Oregon State, so that'll be good. He's finishing up stuff, but I think that was someone they anticipated would be able to help immediately.
Yeah.
All right, well, certainly defense will be key to making a bowl game for this team. How likely do our analysts think that is after dropping this critical of a game in a non-conference slate? And up next, we're going down to Corvallis with Lindsay to get the headlines coming out of Oregon State football. Well, a special story we're sharing with you on Friday. Linebacker Brett Agwebu's family being majorly affected by Hurricane Harvey this week. You can see this video that he tweeted of his family having to leave their home in Katy, Texas. He's going to sit down with us Friday night on Go Beavs. You don't want to miss that. And, of course, our thoughts and prayers going out to his family as well as everyone else affected. Time now for our Standard TV and Appliance headlines with Lindsay. She is telling us all the top stories out of Corvallis this week. Let's start with number 1. What are we going with?
Too many turnovers. Oh my gosh, you guys know it. Everyone knows it. Certainly Gary Anderson knows it. He was pretty fired up about it. And I talked this week to offensive coordinator Kevin McGiven about exactly how that happened and what went wrong.
Yeah, obviously the biggest thing that stands out is you can't win football games when you turn the ball over 5 times. You know, it was 1 in every 3 times we touched the football. And in the 10 drives that we didn't turn the ball over, we had ourselves in scoring position on 6 of those drives. So the percentages say if you don't turn the ball over that you're probably going to be right there with a chance to win the football game. You don't give them those opportunities, and we take advantage of some of those opportunities. And so, you know, that was obviously the most glaring thing from that game is, you know, being able to take care of the football.
So the biggest problem there that McGiven, you didn't see that, but I thought he brought up an interesting point, Amanda. You know, it was 117 degrees on the field.
Right.
That is really, really hot. And I know that people don't want to make excuses about the weather, about the heat. But here's the reality, McGiven said. When you are on the field, it's that hot and you're that long and your drives are going long and you're not scoring on the few times you're not turning the ball over, you're exhausted too.
Elevation.
So, yeah, elevation, all these things. So he said, you know, we tired ourselves out too. I think there were some mental mistakes. Jake Luton said, you know, his first interception that was a pass intended for Isaiah Hodgins. He just threw it behind him, threw it off his back foot. Dumb mistake that he can fix, but they got to shore it up, not just this week, but going forward.
And sticking with the offense for our second story of the week.
The reemergence of the run game. Where did it go? Where did it go?
So
no one knows. So it's more of a question for me, like, will it come back this week against PSU? We've talked about that. Everyone knows that the Beavers are good at running the ball, so everyone's going to stack the box. But you got to find a way to get it going anyway. The other thing about that is it helps on time of possession. You know, something the Beavers lost by like 9 minutes. And in this day and age of college football, a lot of coaches that are running hurry-up offense want to say that time of possession doesn't matter. But you know what? When you're losing it continually, it does. Now, it's only one game. I don't think there needs to be full-on panic yet. But they have to run the ball. Ryan Nall is the best player on the team, and it's not close.
And you have Thomas Tyner, Artavius Spears. How long before we see a little more of Thomas Tyner, do you think?
I think it's going to take a while. I mean, look, 2 years is a long time to sit out. It's going to take him time to get a feel. It's going to take his teammates time to get a feel for him. Don't underestimate the importance of the chemistry between, you know, a running back and his offensive lineman, a running back and his quarterback. So, you know, how quickly can they build that chemistry in practice is the question.
And number 3, defense. Lots of defense, right? Hopefully.
Okay, yes. They are playing an FCS opponent. So the defense needs to dominate in every single possession, at every single position. You know, Colorado State, like, this is great. Okay, you look at this graphic, this is awesome. All these guys, look how much stronger they are. That's awesome. It did not reflect in the game against Colorado State. Colorado State was 8 of 8 in the red zone. That's terrible, especially when you consider that Oregon State was only 1 of 1. So it's not like they were just trading, you know, scores or anything. So I want to see the defense absolutely dominate. I want you to send a message that this is why you play at Portland State. This is why I play in the Pac-12. And I think that that will go a long way for their confidence and just mental grit too.
Who do you think steps up this week? Defensive line, secondary? You think a position group is going to
I think that after Xavier Crawford's comments, he better have the game of his life.
That is very true. That is very true. All right, Lindsay, thank you as always. Still ahead, we're taking a look at how the other coaches in year 3 have fared in the Pac-12. And coming up next, the Vikings kept things close in their opener. What to worry about with Portland State? Portland State giving BYU a scare in the opener. The Cougars eventually pulling out a 20-6 win, but the Vikings trailed by just 8 points heading into the fourth quarter. Portland State also had more first downs, more third down conversions, and time of possession on their side. So this will be certainly a tough challenge for Oregon State this weekend. Here's a look at Bruce Barnum, this is how Portland State has fared against FBS opponents in the last, these are their wins over the last, again, 17 years, 4-35 all time against FBS programs. And in our Toyota Portland on Broadway tune-up, a look at Bruce Barnum. Again, that first year that they beat Washington State and North Texas, they had a great year. That was his first season. They lost in the second round of the playoffs. He was FCS Coach of the Year in that season. Bruce Barnum, what do you think of the job he's done at Portland State, and what's kind of to look for this week for folks that don't know much about the Vikings?
So year 3 for him too. That's how you should open when you're year 3. Look, they went in there and played well. Kalani Sitake, former defensive coordinator at Oregon State, said he was really impressed with them. They gave him problems. Also, you know, it's worth pointing out that there's no pressure on Portland State in this type of setting. But first of all, I just want to say when we talk about giant killers, I think about Sacramento State from the Big Sky. But Ev, I think they need to pound them.
Yeah, and Portland State always plays Oregon State well. I remember my redshirt sophomore year. You know, it was hard for us to even, you know, create any offensive action the first quarter, and then we started picking up on them and figuring out their scheme. But they always play us tough, and obviously they have nothing to lose, and it's in state, right? They want to show off because a lot of those guys wish they were at Oregon State.
Sure.
So you gotta, you know, these guys are gonna come in and try to just rip us apart.
Okay, wait, I'm gonna push back on this a little bit. Don't you think that part of, you know, you guys, they always played well, is Mike Riley would never blow anyone out? Everyone knew that.
Yeah.
He was not going to run the score up, even on an FCS team.
No, he wouldn't. He wouldn't. That was the kind of guy he is, right?
So I would guess it would be kind of hard to get up for that game, is what I'm saying. It wasn't like, we're playing an FCS team, we're going to pound them. It was like, we're playing an FCS team, we're going to win by 15 or 20.
I don't know. I kind of look at them as a stat game. I love playing those guys. You know, because, you know, when it comes to Pac-12, you know, Pac-12 games.
You'd be high in the rankings early on?
Yeah.
Well, they're starting a freshman quarterback. He played pretty decently, 16 to 36, 134 yards, a touchdown, and 1 interception in his debut against BYU. And Ev, you were saying that you have played with a couple of freshman quarterbacks. What is that like? How does that change the dynamic of things on offense?
Tough. You know, my senior year, we had Sean Canfield and Lyon Morval, and it was tough. You know, it took them a while for them to get comfortable, and so we relied on the running game a lot, and then a lot of trick plays. That's when that fly sweep became popular from James Rogers, fly sweep left, fly sweep right, run the ball, you know, little dump passes here and there. So it takes time, and I mean, he's going to play at Research Stadium. You know, his first. You know, that's tough. You know.
The other thing that's worth pointing out is from a defensive standpoint, you only have 1 game of film. You can't go back and watch him the year before, so you're really only going off what he did against BYU. You don't know how much of their playbook they showed off, that type of thing.
It seems like they have a pretty decent tight end. What else do you see that's going to be a big challenge for this team this weekend?
Well, Kevin McGibbon, the offensive coordinator, said this week that Sitake, I don't know if Sitake said this publicly or he talked to Anderson. I assume he talked to Anderson. They're really good friends, and Kalani used to coach at OSU. But that the cornerbacks gave them a lot of trouble. That would make me a little nervous. You already have Luton trying to figure it out. Now he's going to play against some guys. He threw 3 interceptions the other day. So more reason to go back to the run game.
Yeah, and we're going to run the ball. We're going to attack them, and I don't think we're going to see what we saw last week. The reason why I say that is because these guys are feeling pressure, and they know it's their home game, a home opener, so they're going to come ready to play ball.
And they have a pretty good guy up front, Devon Dade, Big Sky Player of the Week in Week 1. How difficult do you think will it be to run on them? I mean, this isn't, like, again, the defense wasn't great last year for the Vikings. They allowed 250 yards on the ground per game. Do you think that the run game is really just going to come out and find their stride against this group? Is this a game that they need?
Yeah, I don't think they ran the ball bad, you know, against Colorado State.
They just didn't do it.
Yeah, they didn't do it. I think we kind of went away from it. We want to throw a ball a little bit more, but I think Coach Anderson and the staff, they've heard a lot of us, right, say why weren't running the ball. So this week you'll see a lot of running the ball.
And also, Ryan Nall can run on anyone. It's going to be a matter of, can the line give us some holes for him?
All right, well, much more to come here. But first, Evanson is getting you ready for game day at the OSU Beaver Store.
Hey, Beaver Nation, this week we're here at the men's section. Check out these shorts. These are hot. I mean, you can jump in the pool with them. You can hang out and just chill around the house with them. These are lightweight. These are really awesome. I love this look right here. And you got the tank tops. This is really cool, lightweight, really good. You know, sun's out, guns out, fellas. And then, exclusive, right here, the Beaver Kicks. The only place you can find these at the OSU Beaver Store. Fans start here.
Well, Beavers fans, we have you covered throughout the week this fall. Talking Beavers, Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Inside the Huddle will get you ready on Thursday, featuring Gary Anderson at 10 o'clock. And, of course, game day, right before game day, make sure to check out Go Beavs Friday nights at 9 p.m. So much of the talk this year so far has been year 3, Gary Anderson. This is when he turned it around at Utah State. Such high expectations. We want to take a look at how other newbies in the Pac-12 have fared in year 3s, because it's a little all over the place. Again, you have guys like Rich Rod at Arizona, Todd Graham, David Shaw, Jim Mora, Chris Peterson, all with very strong seasons. And then you have guys like Mike McIntyre, Kyle Whittingham, Mike Leach, 4-9, 5-7, 3-9. What stands out to you about these numbers, these programs, and how they've done in year 3?
Well, one thing is that I think it's important to look at when you want to compare teams. Okay, let's see who was in a similar situation. So Gary Anderson walked into a situation where there wasn't a lot of depth. Similar, I think, at Arizona, right? They hadn't been great. Like, David Shaw did great, and
sure.
I love David Shaw. He's awesome, but Jim Harbaugh had rebuilt them completely. Chris Peterson is an elite coach in college football. I think that's reflected. Mike Leach is interesting, but they did get it turned around, but also, Ev, like, they run such a weird system. They're in and out of every game.
Yeah, you know, I was looking at some of those coaches, and like you said, also, some of those coaches got handed a pretty good team, right?
Sure.
So it's a little different.
Yeah, like UCLA might not have been great, but they're always going to have great athletes.
Yes.
Stuff like that plays a huge role in it. But I think that there's going to be some pressure.
So, bowl game, how would you reassess your week 1 pick for bowl game or not?
They're not getting to a bowl game with that defense.
Yeah, it didn't look like a bowl game team, but things will change. Obviously,
Lots of times to fix stuff.
Lots of time.
Usually, you see the biggest improvement from week 1 to week 2, right? That's what coaches like to say.
Where do you estimate the biggest improvement comes this week?
Defense.
Yeah, maybe they won't.
Guys
won't be just running free in the field.
All right, well, we'll see you back here for Go Beavs Friday night.